Okay, so today we have Anthony, my really good friend from college, and we're going to answer some questions about finance. This was going to be pretty chill, pretty casual. It's just going to be a conversation between friends about personal finance. Literally any question you have, I will do my best to help you because we're friends.
All right, cool.
Yeah, what's up?
So currently I am working at a pretty decent paying job. I'm almost breaking, or I'm about to break like 6 figures, not netting, but just like getting, I guess, 100K salary. And I don't really know what to do with my money. Currently, it's just kind of parked in a high yield savings account. I hear it's a good idea to keep it there because it's liquid and at least the returns are like kind of okay compared to like a normal savings account. But I'm wondering if there's a better route, if I should invest in stocks or ETFs or whatever, or if I'm going to go with like the real estate route, keep it in the high yield savings account so it's available whenever an opportunity arises.
Okay, I think since you're like just starting in like the finance space, it's really great that you have a good savings amount already. The next best thing to do is probably just to invest it into stocks because that one is like, it's liquid. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about, buying a huge piece of real estate, putting in a 20-30% down payment on a house, and then all your money is tied up in that one piece of property.
Right.
But for like stocks, for example, for Sharon and I, we invest in these low-cost index funds. Mm-hmm. Do you know what those are?
Not really.
Okay, I'll explain to you, hopefully very simply. So an index fund is when you take a bunch of stocks, not just one, like not one Tesla, not just one Apple, but you're combining 500 of the top companies in the United States, putting them all in one giant pool. You know, maybe like of the pool, 5% is Apple, 2% is Tesla, and then you have like other things like Supermicro or whatever.
Sure.
So it's all one giant bucket. And then you invest in the giant bucket all at once. Okay. So you get diversification right away because it's all the top companies. And when companies are doing really good, they'll bring the companies in. And when companies are probably really bad, they'll kick them out. But overall, the fund tends to grow at like 10% interest every year. So if theoretically you put in 100 grand, then theoretically you're going to get $10,000 that first year. And the next year is 10% of your 110,000. Right. So it's compound growth.
Right.
And and it's super easy. Like it's literally just put the money in there and then it does it all for you.
Okay. That part I think I understand. The part I don't understand is how is that more liquid? Because I hear that like if you withdraw like your stocks or something, you'll be penalized or like there's like tax penalties or something like that. So that's the other part that I'm not too familiar with, especially if the end goal is to pull that money out to use for like a down payment or like a portion of it for a down payment.
Okay. So let's go over it step by step. When it comes to buying and selling stocks, if there's a gain, like you made money on it, then you owe capital gains taxes. That's fair, right? You made profit, but you only tax on the profit, not like I put in $100, I take out $100, I didn't make any profit, I get taxed on the money. Right. No, it's only on your profit. And how much you get taxed depends on how long you invested in that one thing. So if you bought Apple and you sold it before holding it for 365 days, then you pay short-term capital gains taxes. So short-term capital gains taxes are the same rate as your like regular job.
I see.
Typically in the 30-70% range. Yeah. Long-term means you held on to that same stock for over a year. Okay. And then you're only paying like 15% or 20% depending on your tax bracket. Most people out there are going to be in the 15% range.
Okay. So I guess for now, instead of just leaving my money in a high yield savings account, it'd be better to just, assuming that I could leave it there for at least a year, just park it in like what was it called again?
Well, they're called taxable brokerage accounts. Okay. That's the bucket. But then you're buying stocks with that. Okay. Yeah,
so I think we were just talking about like brokerage. What was that, the full term? Like a taxable?
It's called a taxable brokerage account. At the end of the day, it's a brokerage account because you're buying and selling your stocks through there. But the reason why it's called a taxable one is because you have like retirement funds. You have an IRA, Roth IRA. These are tax advantaged brokerage accounts. The taxable one is like, all right, it's normal. You don't have any breaks for that.
Got it. And then like for something like that, I don't even know like who to go to or like, essentially I just want to know like where to park my money and then like if it's reliable and like just who I need to talk to. I imagine there's several options to go for and like some might have like better, I don't know, rates or I don't know, whatever perks or benefits that might be available. And I don't want to have to sift through and do too much like research. I know I probably should, but I just don't know what I don't know and where to start with something like that.
Like you know what brokerage to put your money into, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We affiliate with a company called Webull. That's one. Webull is a very easy to use, lightweight brokerage that you could access through your phone, buy and sell stocks. If you want to get into trading, you can use that too. We don't do trading.
Right.
Another one is M1 Finance. They're pretty big in the space. Personally, we use Vanguard because Vanguard has the lowest cost basis, meaning like for like a similar fund, they do the same thing. Vanguard is cheaper to hold on to. With all these funds, you do pay like a small percentage, right? Like, let's imagine you have some hot shot like stock investor for you. They're gonna buy and sell crazy stocks and then promise you a 12% return.
Right.
12% is huge, right? But they're gonna charge you 2% in fees.
Right.
But with like Vanguard funds and the other kind of like index ETFs, since they don't really do much, they just track an index, their fees are like 0.1%, really low, 0.2% or 0.01%, you know? So Vanguards are really low, notoriously very low.
And I imagine it's less risky because it's like invested in multiple stocks instead of relying on someone to pick and choose. And
yeah, I mean, that's why we like ETFs because they're low cost. And at the end of the day, like you have these huge like hedge fund managers, they do all the things, but then they charge you so many fees that it's not even worth it going with those people.
okay, so I think I figured out what I could do with my money and like where to put it for the next foreseeable future or year or so. Let's like fast forward, imagine that I have left my money in one of those like ETF funds for about a year. It's accrued a couple, like some money, compound interest returns, and then I'm looking to buy like a home. Like what should the first step be for that? Do I look on? Because currently what I'm doing is like looking on Zillow. I'm talking to like friends and family to see like what their process was, but everyone's giving me like different advice. And to be honest, like they're not where I want to be in life. They just, sure, they got a house, but like they're also not, I wouldn't consider them like financially free. They're house poor, right? Things like that. So I'm kind of wondering what the next step would look like and a better process.
See, that's the beauty of personal finance. It's super personal. Like if you're gonna ask me, oh, is it better to buy my own home or buy a rental property? It's really hard to say. So let me ask you then, like what do you want?
I currently would like to have a home just to, one, kind of check that off the list and have like a place of my own. But the thing about that, and especially since I'm looking out of state because California is so high cost of living, is that like I hear that I'd have to live there for a certain amount of time at least, or like to qualify for loans or something like that. So that's something that's kind of like turning me off from that, especially in my current phase in my life where I don't want to fully commit to one place for an extended period of time, especially if I don't like it. Las Vegas heat. So that's one option, to like get a place, stay there, it's kind of floating around, or just use it as like rental property and generate more income.
Yeah, but they're two different things. Which one do you want?
I know those are two very different things, and that's why I'm trying to weigh what the like pros and cons would be.
All right, let me just give you my take. So from what I understand, you're mostly looking for like a home base, probably want to take care of your parents too.
Yeah.
And you for sure it's out of state, you don't want to be in California.
Only, it would be out of California only because of the like houses are just very difficult to find like a nice condition, like a house in good condition that's like livable in a good location without getting completely screwed financially.
But ideally, if you had the money, you would live in California, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's just go over two paths then, because I don't know exactly what you want. I think you don't know exactly what you want either when it comes to real estate. But I think first step is if you're buying for your own personal residence, right? And you're worried about living there for loan purposes, don't worry about that too much. It's more so like you buy the property with a personal like home loan. They're basically just saying you have to live in it for 1 year and you cannot rent it out during that 1 year.
Okay.
But if you're like, oh, it's my home, but I'm traveling the world for a year, they're not going to care because it's still your home, right? Your parents are living there, your family's living there. It's not like, oh, I got this personal loan at low interest rate, but I'm going to use it as an investment property. That's a big no-no. But if it's still your home, then that's fine. Don't worry about that part.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. When it comes to buying out of state, Sherry and I are looking in Vegas. We lived in Texas for a little bit. There's a lot of states that have benefits to like no income tax states, right? We like living in those places. And also you get to travel and the lower cost of living, et cetera.
Right.
And then when it comes to like investing in properties, I mean, there's a whole other ball game too, right? Like you're buying properties, but I would not invest in that until you're comfortable investing with stocks first. It's like a hierarchy.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to like plan.
Well, because like again, I don't want you to like put all your money into one property and then have all your liquid assets tied up.
Right.
It's gonna feel really shit.
Right. Okay, but assuming like everything goes well and I don't have to worry too much, like, because I foresee owning at least one property like in my future, just to, like I said, have a home base and just something to fall back to, or like at least call my home if shit hits the fan. And I'll, like I said before, like if I own it, I'll work to essentially keep owning it.
And that's why your loans for primary homes are lower, because people will do whatever they can to keep their home.
Right.
But for investment property, if it has to go, it has to go, right?
I see. Okay. So I'm wondering, like, how did you take that first step? Like, let's just assume I'm gonna go with Vegas, right? How did you take that first step in like buying an out-of-state house? Because I know you already own like one property, so you might have like all the experience and know what to look for and what to do.
Sure. But you're saying like, let me start from scratch. I don't know anything, and my first home purchase is gonna be in an area that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
Okay, step one, definitely like, I think you should just go to Vegas and then check out the different neighborhoods. Because you might see on Zillow like, oh, this one property is super cheap. Great deal. You go there, oh, I know why it's a good deal now, right? Like it's very sus. At least like walk the neighborhood so you're familiar with all the different places. And then step two is find your agent. So there are many ways to find agents nowadays, especially with online. I'm sure like you have tons of friends who are already agents.
Yeah.
Or if not, you can reach out to me. I know a lot of people that can help you out. And then you talk to them, because not every agent is as good as they say they are, or not every agent will work the same way you want to work.
Right.
You know, like some of them talk a big game, but don't pick up their phone calls. They don't actually show you properties. They need you to like find them deals or whatever. So I guess talk to several agents and find the one that fits your personality. And then I guess as it is of this recording, like the buyers themselves typically don't pay their agents. So right now, at least, a lot of the home sellers will give their listing agent a commission, and then the listing agent will split that commission with the buyer agent.
I think one of the other concerns or things that I'm like cautious about is like, who do I want to like have or involved in my team, and how do I go about like vetting like for a good agent? Because like kind of what you said right now, it might not be a good fit, but I don't know what I don't know, and to me I might think like, oh, this is just normal, right? Like this is just my first time. I guess this is just how it's supposed to be. So I guess what are some things that I should look out for when I'm looking for like a good agent to work with?
That's a good question. I mean, for me, it's always been like fit, personality fit. Because I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good BS radar. I don't know about that, but I can kind of sense when someone talks a big game.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's like people who I can tell like they're hustling. So even if they may not be that experienced, if I can tell that this person really cares about me and is attentive to my needs and is actually showing me things that I want to see, not just like, oh, I just called a bunch of properties on the list and sent you a giant like random blog instead of actually like handpicking like, hey, I think this one works for you. You know what I mean? Like, you can easily just go on Zillow, be like, 3-bedroom, 2 bathrooms in this area, go. Here's a list, email them. Which one do you like? Let's go look. That's not what I want.
Right.
I would like someone that's like, hey, like I heard about this property. I know it fits your criteria. Let's go check it out. That one seems more like, it's like handpicked versus just, you know, automated drip or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Because that's like I said, that's one of the things that I'm worried about. The people that I get involved, I just want to make sure that like they have my best interests in mind, not just to like, I don't know, get the job done.
Yeah, close.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something that I'm worried about. And then,
but the thing is too, like with a buyer's agent, you don't owe them anything. You know, if they're not performing, you can just say, hey, thank you for your time, but we're not going to move forward, and they only get paid when they close. So.
Okay.
Oh, one thing too, I want to note, when you're looking for a house, don't just go on Zillow and like click on the contact agent button, because that one is going to lead you to someone who paid for advertising space on Zillow. So you're just going to get like some random dude.
That's the other question I had, because I'm primarily looking for houses through Zillow or like Redfin, things like that. And I'm wondering if the prices there or like the things that I'm seeing on there is like accurate, or if there's like different pricing, because like at the end of the day, like no one wants to get screwed over and no one wants to overpay for what they're going to buy. So I'm wondering if that information is up to date or if there's like more resources available.
I would say like Zestimates and Redfin estimates are a good guide. It's a good place to start your like, oh, okay, it's about this price. And then the listing price, like the home, is almost completely irrelevant. Like they say, oh, this house is only for $100,000. It's like, no, it's not. It's an advertising scheme, right? A lot of agents often list their price like $100,000 below what the seller wants to sell it for, because they know it'll drive more traction, and then people will overbid for the property. It's just how it is, you know? Like, and then the agent can get, oh, like I sold my property for $200,000 over listing, and it's like, well, that was the whole point.
I see.
Yeah, so some people go in there like, oh my God, we found a great deal, guys. And it's like, that's not the case. The home will sell for what the market determines the home is worth. And then some people, they go in and they think, oh, like I'm gonna like hold back and whatever, and they just get beat out week after week after week. and then they go 6 months without being able to get a home.
Yeah.
And then they get in a frenzy too. They're like, 200,000 over asking, and then they finally get the whole property.
That's okay. That's another question I had was like, how long does this whole process from like start to finish look like? Actually, could you just walk me through this? Like, imagine I'm brand new, I'm looking to buy my first house, like I need to talk to X, Y, and Z, and then like...
Sure, let's go over the whole thing. Let's say you're ready to buy a house, you have the money. I think maybe the first thing you should do is find a lender, or like if you're working with an agent already, they will refer you to a lender that they work with. You know, they have a partnership. I think it's kind of like against the rules for lenders to give kickbacks to agents anyway. So you can be relatively safe that they don't have any kind of like altruistic things by sending you to a specific lender or not. It's just like, hey, this is my friend. You know, he'll help you out.
Yeah.
Check them out. The lender will ask you for some documentation. They'll ask for your paycheck. They'll want your W-2s, your tax returns for the past 2 years. They might do a soft pull on your credit or a hard pull on your credit just to see where you're at. And then from there, they can give you like a ballpark estimate of how much you can buy. This includes your down payment, okay? They'll give you like approximate interest rate, approximate whatever, and they'll say, okay, here's your pre-approval letter, go nuts, start making offers. When you have that letter, it makes your offer that much stronger because it shows that you actually did the work. You're actually interested in buying a home. You're serious about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then with your agent, you can start looking at properties and going on open house tours. Open houses are typically 1 to 2 weeks. Like in a normal market, in the Bay Area market, when a property is listed, then they usually have 1 or 2 weeks worth of showings. After that, someone probably put an offer in and it's off the market. So homes go, I mean, during its peak, the average homes were going on sale for like 9 days. It was like really insane. So you have to like get in there and get in fast. Yeah, there'd be like 100 people down the line. Anyways, you go look at open houses. You don't have to, but it's optional. And if you can't make it during the open house time, then your agent can also just go in the home because they have, we have special keys to get into any home we want to. Well, special keys to get into a lockbox that gets us into the homes, okay? So then you can look around the houses, you can check them out, make sure they're good. If you like a home, you tell your agent that you want to put an offer. Your agent's gonna ask you like, all right, how much? What are the terms? Like, do you want a contingency period? Do you want inspection, contingency, loan contingency, all that stuff? And he'll help you craft your offer and submit it to the seller or the seller's agent. The seller's agent will review it, present it to their clients, and then they'll see all the offers combined. And then if they pick yours, then, or if they don't pick yours, then too bad, look for another house. If they pick yours, then you're gonna be in something called the escrow period. So escrow just means that, like I mentioned a couple of days ago, you don't come to closing with a duffel bag full of cash, right? Yeah. There's escrow. Pretty much within the first 3 days, the seller's agent will require the buyer, you, to put in around 3% of the purchase price into an escrow account as a deposit. So you back away for no reason, you keep your money for wasting no time.
Yep.
So for $1 million home, that's $30,000 that you have to just pony up right then and there.
Yep.
Okay. And you'd be like, hey, this money's gone. I promise you, I'm serious about buying the property. And if you don't do this within 3 days, then your contract is probably void and they'll get someone else in there. Okay. This is called your EMD, earnest money deposit. Then for the next month, that's about as long as it's going to take to do the escrow process. Your lender's going to do a lot of paperwork for you. They're going to order an appraisal. So someone is a third-party company, a third-party appraiser is going to come by and check out the value of the property. They're going to make sure that you didn't overbid on this property too crazy. So if this property is only worth $500,000, but you went crazy and you offered $800,000, then the lender is not going to give you, 80% of your $800,000. They're going to be like, you're too crazy. We'll give you 80% of your $500,000 and you have to cover the difference. So that's a huge, that's a really big deal. And it kills a lot of deals when your appraisal comes in too low. Because the buyer then has to decide, do I want to pony up another $200,000 on my own cash to do this? Yeah. So anyways, that's an appraisal. You should be ordering your own inspection as well. These are all half-day things, a few hours, right? An appraiser comes here, looks like this, look at this, and does their own report. They'll come back in maybe a week or so with a report to tell you how much the property is worth. They'll show you the neighbors and all that stuff. The inspector will come by, do their report as well. They'll test all the faucets. They'll check all the electrical cables, make sure everything looks good. Check the roof, whatever, make sure that the home is sturdy. And he'll make a report and show what kind of issues the home has. You typically have to pay for all these things up front. So appraisals, $500 to $800. Inspections, around $500 as well. You pay that up front. Now on the back end, your lender is doing all this work. They're going to ask you for more documentation. They might ask you for, if you have other loans, hey, any other mortgages you have you have any other student loans, you have any car loans, like we need all that documentation. And like the longer you delay, the like more pushed out your file is going to be. So like when you bought the property on your like thing, there's going to be a close date, right? So if you miss that close date, then the seller can be like, hey, like you're not fulfilling your contract, like we might do over or whatever. Another thing that you have to worry about for time-wise too is that when you get your property under contract, you should call your lender right away and be like, hey, we have a contract, lock in my rate. So if they promised you like, oh, maybe rates are going to be in like 6.5%, and you didn't lock in your rate when you got the contract in hand, then like the next day, rates spiked to like 7% or 7.5%, they're going to be like, I'm sorry, you didn't lock in your rate. So you have to lock it in right when you get your contract.
Got it.
Okay, but that rate lock expires too. So if something delays happen and goes on and on for like a couple of weeks or months, right, beyond your initial close date, then your rate lock might expire too, and they'll be like, sorry, like your rate's now at 7%, too bad. And that's happened to several people. Yeah, we're going through the loan process. After about 3 weeks, your loan should be ready. It's going to be called clear to close. That's not that important, you don't need to know that. But if you clear to close, they just do some final touch-ups here and there. The lending company will see all the loan docs, and they'll create something called an estimated settlement statement for you, an ESS. It'll show you all the breakdowns of everything you need, right? The purchase price, any other miscellaneous fees, any taxes you have to pay to buy the property, lending fees, title fees, escrow fees, all that will be there. So your total will be your down payment, so the other 17% that you still owe. It'll be any lending processing fees. So you're paying your lender whatever they need to get paid to do that loan for you. You're paying the title company and the escrow company for doing this exchange for you as well. And as well as any like state, county taxes, whatever. There may also be some like other fees that you may pay in full or negotiate with the seller. It really depends on the county, how those fees go about. On the other side is also the breakdown for what the seller gets. So, they see that they're getting paid this much for the sale price, but then minus the loan amount for the mortgage, minus any taxes they have to pay, minus their escrow fees, minus their title fees, minus their real estate agent's fees, which is like 6%, right? And you can see how much they're gonna net after the sale. So once that's all done, you just wire the rest of that to escrow, the same account usually that you did for EMD, and then escrow will have the money, title will have the documents in place, they'll do all the switcheroos for you, the seller will get the money, and then the real estate agents will also get their money, and then you'll get the property in the deed. So it's a pretty, it takes a team effort, but as long as everyone's communicative, then the whole process takes between 3 weeks and a month for when you get the property under contract.
I'm guessing like the longest part, the part that takes the most time is like actually going through like the open houses and finding a property that you like and that you could put in an offer and like make sure that it gets to that step where like everyone starts actually communicating.
I mean, that depends, right? That's an open-ended one. You could find it the very first day.
Right.
You dream home. Oh my God, I want it.
Yeah. Okay. Earlier you just mentioned something about like paying the rest of the 17% remaining from like the 3%. So that's assuming that you're paying 20% down, right? I remember the other day you mentioned that like you might have put like 5% down and like, and you're still paying PMI, but the PMI was like so like negligible that it didn't even matter. How did you go about making that decision? And like, is that a good move?
Is that a good move is always relative. Right. For us, it was a good move because we want to use our money on something else. The property that we bought in Texas was worth $270,000. 5% of 270,000 is what, like 15 grand? That's the 15 grand, 12 grand? Yeah. It's like, dude, I'm gonna just like bust it out right now, it's nothing for us, right? And we were gonna use that other money to like invest in other properties. So that's why we didn't do 20% down. Also at the time, rates were really low. So I think my mortgage on that property is 3%. So looking back, I did a great deal, right? I'm not trying to pay that one off fast at all.
Right.
And also like for those only work for primary residences. Like investment properties typically need at least 20% down. Yeah.
Can you actually expand on that, the whole primary residence part of that? Like, so you ended up living there for some time, right? Or, okay.
Like 2 years. Actually, it's still our primary residence.
I see.
But we're here traveling the world, so we're not physically in there.
Okay. Does it matter if you intend to have like housemates and stuff like that?
No. If you live in there, it doesn't matter.
Does that help in any way build confidence with like the money that you're getting loans for or anything like that?
The lender is a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation. They don't care about your small like roommate checks. Okay, just kidding. In a single family home, it usually does not apply. It usually doesn't matter. Like it's a single family home, they'll base the loan on your income. But if you're buying a multi-family property, like a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, these are still properties in the residential real estate space. They're not like commercial buildings like this one here.
Right.
Okay. But because it's also a multifamily property, they understand that this property is also an investment property. So the interesting thing is they'll base your loan off of your income. Okay, I can go over that in a little bit, like how they calculate that. They'll also add more, like they'll qualify you for more money based on the other units in the property.
Right.
So for example, it's a fourplex, right? They'll look at the market rents for a unit in that area, and they'll give you 75% of that income as credit towards your debt to income ratio. So if units in the area go for, let's say, easy math sake, $1,000, then it's as if you're making an extra $750 per month because of these three properties, these three extra units. So that's how it can help you. That's how you can qualify for a bigger mortgage if you're buying a multifamily property.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then you said you were gonna expand on another point.
Okay, so do you understand how lenders give you a loan in the first place? Like how do they decide that you qualify for $1 million loans? So the way they do it is through something called your debt to income ratio. They want to make sure that you alone, through your job, can afford this property. So they take this giant sheet and they take all of your monthly expenses, things that you have to pay for. So if you have any other like student loans, they'll take the minimum payment for that. Car loans, minimum payment for that. If you have a credit card bill you don't pay off every month, they'll take the minimum payment for that as well. And they'll also add in the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance of the property you're going to buy. So your principal and interest, that's your mortgage payment. Your taxes is property taxes. Insurance is insurance on a monthly basis. It's called your PITI. Okay, that's like the minimum you have to pay for the property no matter what. They add all this number up, plus any other PITIs for other properties you have, and put it at the very, very top. So this is your debt number. This is how much you have to pay no matter what. Right?
Where does that number come, like before I find a house, or like where does that?
This number comes before you find a house, but they're going to assume like what's your maximum PITI that you can afford.
Got it.
And they're going to base, whatever, I'll show you some back-end calculations. Okay. They take that and divide it by your gross income. So your gross income is your salary divided by 12. So like before taxes. So if you made $120,000 a year, that's $10,000 a month. Okay. So they want this debt to income ratio to be, between like 43% or 50%, depending on what loan you're getting. Okay. 43% is typical for most of the higher end homes like the Bay Area. Okay. So to find out how much home you can actually afford, they'll take like that 43% number on the right. They'll multiply it by your gross income. That's going to be some number here. Then you're going to have your debt, your PITI number. They're going to subtract whatever like other debts you have, like your car payments or whatever. And then it's going to be your principal and interest payments here and this other number right here. And then they're just going to use a mortgage calculator to see, okay, based on this loan amount and this interest rate, you're going to have this principal and interest like number you have to pay every month. And that's going to be how much you can afford. It's just like a back-end calculation through that. So they'll tell you like, okay, you can get a loan for up to $500,000, but if you back in like a 20% down payment, right, then your total amount is going to be like 600 something. So you can afford like a 600 something $1,000 home, assuming that you're putting in 20% for your down payment.
Got it.
That's kind of how they do it.
One of the things I was worried about, like let's say I do move forward with like buying a first home, like what are some things that I should look for? Because I hear a lot of people that when they're buying their first home, it's like not a forever home. So like you could just, kind of overlook some things because you might change at some point. I don't know if that's a good idea. And I already could foresee that you're gonna say it depends on like, your personal situation, but I'm just kind of curious to hear what like the general consensus might be.
Of getting a forever home?
Yeah, and just like things to look out for when you're buying a home.
I guess for Sharon and I, like we even don't have a forever home. Yeah, actually we talked about this the other day. It was like we prefer living in these like moderate homes, like modest homes, so that we can rent them out in the future if we decide to bounce. But if you buy like a McMansion, your forever home, then you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way I'm going to be able to afford paying thousands of dollars just for a home to sit there.
Right.
There's no way. But for a smaller home, yeah, no problem. I can leave whenever I want.
Right.
So again, it depends on you, right? If you're a homebody, you love living in the area, you're going to raise your family here for 20, 30 years, go nuts. But if you're not sure where you're going to be, like there's no reason to like dump all your money on this like super nice home.
I think I lean towards like the similar philosophy or ideology. Like I can't, at this current stage in my life, can't foresee myself staying in one spot for like more than a year or two, if anything. Kind of like a curveball, like why would I buy a house instead of just continue renting if I'm gonna just continue moving around place to place anyway?
That's a good question. I think like if you're in Southeast Asia, it totally makes sense to rent because your price to rent ratios don't really make sense to be a landlord here, and the rent is so affordable. Like, who cares? But I feel like in the States, it really hurts my heart to spend like, a few $1,000s to be someone else's tenant when I can be the landlord and get the rent myself. Or like if I'm spending this much money, I want to start building equity. That's kind of where it comes down to. Like, I felt more comfortable buying a home in Texas because we could build equity. We knew we could live there for a few years, maybe not forever, but a few years. And then if we ever decided to move, we could rent the property and still make a profit. That's where I stand.
Yeah.
I think real estate is a great vehicle, like investment vehicle. It tends to go up over long periods of time. Like you said, it can be a home for your family to just have a home base in.
Right.
So it has many uses. I think being Asian too, like I'm more prone to wanting real estate versus just, numbers on a screen.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious to hear more about like how you made the calculations for whether or not like your property would be profitable renting it out. Like, how did you come up with those numbers? Like, let's say worst case scenario, I do live in a place or I buy a house and then I decide it's not for me. Again, I already foresee this is going to be like depend on the house that you're buying, but will I like eat the cost, pay the difference if I like rent it out, or hopefully in an ideal world like make some profit off of it?
Cool. I think the theming is very good because we actually have a property analysis calculator, something I made when I was super bored. Kind of like what your calculator is at, right? You made a calculator, and by putting in the right numbers, you can see the results. You do this enough times, you're going to see like patterns, like, okay, if I have this much rent and this much purchase price, I already know if it's going to work out or not. That's really what you have to do. You have to do the numbers. You have to analyze it and be like, okay, I have this property at this price. I have this interest rate on it. I know what my monthly payments are because of the property taxes and insurance. And you can also do market comps for rent. So if you go on Zillow and you look around like your home, instead of going for sale, you go to for rent, you can kind of see what other people are renting their homes for. So look for a home that's similar to yours and you're like, oh, this one rents for $2,000. Okay, maybe mine can rent for $2,000 as well. And then you put the numbers in and you can see, is it positive cash flow? Is it negative cash flow? Even if it's negative, how bad is the negativity? Sometimes it's okay to have a property that's losing a couple $100 a month because you can handle it. But just knowing that in the back end, the property is appreciating and you can always still make all these good things.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm also assuming if you play that long game long enough, rent prices could also increase. Like, don't want to rely on that solely, but it's another thing to like consider, right? And
it tends to happen. Think about it. Rents 30 years ago are not the same as rents today.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so I'm essentially just trying to figure out what the best strategy might be, especially right now with the money that I have, and just continue renting. I mean, yeah, I am in Asia right now, so it makes sense, and it just costs like so little, but it would also be nice to build equity, make more money that way, and also just have a place if I do decide to go back stateside.
I think for you, just because I know you and like we talked a little bit about it, I don't think it makes sense to buy a rental property right now, because when you buy a rental property, especially if you're your first time, it doesn't require too much from you. But if you're in like a different time zone, you're buying properties from another part of the states that you're not familiar with, even like signing closing documents is going to be a pain in the butt. So like you have to go back to the states to sign those documents to like close. Yeah. On top of that, it's a huge financial investment, and the money getting back, like cash flow wise, is going to be pretty small. Like we're expecting $100, $200, $300 a month for each property that we have. So that's not too much money. After you have like, a dozen or so properties, then it starts to snowball and becomes something significant, right? Then all the rents increase over time, then everything grows too. But since you're kind of like in this like starting phase where you have a good base, I do encourage you to start investing in stocks because you have a high yield savings account. It's making you 4%, but as you've seen, it was 5% last year. It's 4% now. If interest rates drop even further, it's 3%, right? I remember when I was a kid, I first learned about like CDs. Do you know what CDs are?
I have a general idea, but...
Okay, they're certificates of deposit. Go to a bank account, or you go to any bank, you open up a CD, they lock your money for a certain period of time, and they give you an interest rate based on that time you lock it. And at the time, when I was a kid, it was 5%. I was like, dude, this is sick. I'm gonna lock up my money forever, right? But I didn't understand that instead of locking my money up, I could have just invested in equities, just regular stocks. And then that grows at 10%, 15% at the time, right? It is riskier to invest in stocks, but over the long run, especially if you invest in these low-cost index funds, then it's not a big deal. So some of the ones that we invest in are like QQQ. Her mom really loves investing in that one, but that's like a tech stock. or it's an index fund for like tech companies. So as you know, tech has been doing really well. So that whole portfolio has also been doing pretty well. We invest in other Vanguard funds like VTSAX and VTIA something. Yeah, VFIAX, something like that. You have all these weird names, but at the end of the day, it's like the Vanguard Total Stock Index or Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund. At the end of the day, they basically do the same thing. So you don't need to worry about the nitty gritties. I was like, oh, it's the Fidelity version, the Vanguard version, or whatever.
Yeah, that's the other part. Like, I don't want to have to like shop around.
Yeah, I think that's the scariest part for most people. They just like, they see so many options, so they don't know what to do. And because of that, they just do nothing. And then a year goes by, 2 years goes by, 10 years goes by, they didn't invest.
Yeah, that's like exactly the position that I'm in right now. Like, I'm overwhelmed with options. I don't know where to like put it. And then like one of the reasons why I put it into like a high yield savings account is because like I watched one of your videos. I'm like, okay, like it seems pretty straightforward. I could just throw it in there and don't worry too much about it. And I could always just pull the money out whenever I need it. And it's like low friction. I was just like, okay, simple, just get it done.
Typically, we keep our like emergency funds or the funds that we really want liquid in the high yield savings account, just because, you know, if there's an emergency, anytime we can pull the money out and use it. But then for a majority of the liquid funds, we invest it. That's money, honestly, that we basically never see ever again. Because there's almost no reason for me to sell those stocks unless I'm buying another investment. Or if I really need it. Like when I messed up for some of my flipping projects, I needed money. You know, I was losing $30,000 a month, right? It sucked, dude. It sucked. But because I had that base, I was able to sell those and then take care of myself and not go bankrupt or whatever.
I think that's it for now, like the roadmap for me personally.
Okay, let me ask you then. Based on our conversation for the past hour, what are you going to do?
What am I going to do right away? I'm going to invest in like a index fund or like an ETF.
Okay, which one?
I'm going to look into the Vanguard one.
Vanguard's really good for the ETFs, right? And also for retirement accounts, if you want to open like an IRA, there's the Roth version and the traditional version. So I've had Vanguard for those over 10 years. It's like a chill platform. Nothing special about it. I think what's important too is maybe you also set up the automatic investing, like I was mentioning, because I think it's hard, especially if you're grinding, you're working. You think like, damn, like the money I make, like I don't want to like leave it. But if you can just automatically say, all right, this money is dedicated to investing, you learn to live off of what you have left, it will make it happen. You know how to live off of less than what you make, right? So the other one, instead of just being like, oh, like I'll invest it when the market recovers, or oh, I'll invest it when I'm ready. Don't even let that be an option. Just automatically say, hey, from my bank account, you're taking this much, or straight up like from your paycheck, you can say, oh, I want to direct this much to my checking account and this much to my investing account. Yeah, that was what really made the biggest difference because it took me out of the equation.
So it's like less emotional. You didn't have to think about it.
No emotion, no laziness, no motivation. It just happens. If you really need the money that month, then sell the stock and get it back. But the chances that you need it is so low. But the chance of you missing investing if you don't set this up is very high. Like months will go by, oh, I forgot to invest. It happens.
So I probably should have started a little bit sooner, but
hey, it's fine. Throw that out of the way. You're still very, very young. Think about this, like you're probably doing a lot better than your parents were when they were your age, right? So who cares, right? Yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to do is look into that. And I don't know how soon this is going to be up, but I'm going to like review and study all the things.
This is not going up for a long time. So you better have taken mental notes.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you want to know or any other questions? Like, do you feel like you have a game plan? So we didn't just talk for an hour and then you do nothing?
Of course, dude. I'm not going to waste your time.
No, it's not about wasting my time. It's about like, I want to make sure that, you're set and I'm excited for you so that, when we meet up again in Bali in 5 years, you're like, I'm balling now, like I'm set, like, all this stuff I do for work is just for fun, keep me occupied and not go crazy in retirement, you know what I mean? That's my dream. Like I told this to Sharon, like my dream is, yes, we create financial content. Yes, we make money from this, but my real dream, I want all my bros, I want all my friends to be able to live this lifestyle where we're just chilling. We're all financially free. We have properties giving us passive income, right? We're living a good life, but they just don't know how to do it, right? No one's stupid here. We're all UCLA grads. It's all just about showing it. Okay, now you understand how to do it. Now you can do it. What doubts do you have right now in terms of anything we talked about today?
Nothing.
So everything is clear.
Yeah.
You see the line.
I see the line. I see what at least for like the next 1 to 2 years, assuming my like career doesn't blow up, like, cause yeah, my cost of living or like my living conditions, I've been living like this for like, I've been living in pretty shitty conditions. So I'm used to it. Like right now, 1,500 is like nice for me, right? I could even live on like much less, especially if I'm gonna be in Thailand too. Yeah, so 1,500 is like me enjoying life, eating really well, eating out every day too, and like including my rent and stuff. If I even need to scale back to like 1,000, I can do it. Cause yeah, I've lived in Vietnam for like $800 before. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions about personal finance, drop them down in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. See ya.